Welcome to Visibility by Design podcast with your host, Juliette Stapleton. In this show, I want to help you combine your marketing strategies and your human design potential so you can show up, stand out, and attract your perfect clients with confidence and ease. Are you ready? Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome back to Visibility by Design with your host, Juliette Stapleton. I have an awesome guest for you today. In fact, I fell in love with Jackie Johnstone here on this side, everybody. I fell in love with her literally the minute I clicked on one of the episodes on her podcast, and I said to myself, this is it. You know, I totally want this lady on my podcast. I definitely want to talk to her. And this is exactly the subject of that episode is exactly what we're going to talk today. And if you are a non-energy type, a projector, reflector, manifestor, get ready to get buzzed because she's an awesome manifesting generator, and I'm already getting a bit drunk on her energy. So welcome, Jackie. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, great. You're coming all the way from Canada.
Yes. Yeah, New Brunswick, Canada.
Awesome. In very short, I will ask you, what made human design such a big deal for you that you're now using it in your business?
Oh my God. I will try and keep it concise because I think we all have the story, right? It's like, I remember someone once saying human design finds you at the exact moment that you're ready for it. And I just get goosebumps just saying that again. I'm like, because that's like exactly what happened for me, but it started chasing me around in 2018 or end of 2017. And I was very skeptical in the beginning. Like, I come from a science background. I have a degree in science. I used to forecast the weather in a previous life as a meteorologist. And I was a very logical, kind of rational, scientific minded person. And I wouldn't have called myself spiritual or intuitive or any of the things that I now claim for myself at the time. And so I was kind of dismissive and sort of like, what is this? But it kept coming back and it kept coming back. And something inside me was like, there's something here for you. You got to check that out. And now I know that was my sacral. That was my gut being like, we're responding to this. Like, let's go and check it out. And so I started to explore and experiment. And luckily I had a brilliant coach in the beginning who saw me. I'm a 1-3 sacral MG. And she said, here's a bunch of books to go and read. So my line one took a bunch of information in. And now she's like, here's a couple things that we can experiment with. And then my line 3 went out and started playing with it. And I felt so much freedom from the overthinking that was happening in my mind. Like, I am such an intellectual kind of thinker person that I had probably, if you're listening to this, you also have had this experience of just running the pro-con list through your mind, trying to make a decision, trying to be logical, trying to figure out the best thing. And it's like a trap. Because
your defined head, do you have a defined? Yeah.
I don't. No, I'm wide open, but I think
interesting.
So much conditioning that I was trying so hard to do this, and I have a wide open heart. So wanting to prove myself and wanting to prove that I was rational, that I was, you know what I mean? That yes. I am somebody who knows what they're talking about, all that stuff. So it was such freedom to be like, oh, this is how my body speaks to me. Because I had always heard people say, well, just trust your intuition or just trust your gut, which is what I'm here to do. And I would be like, that sounds great, but how? How do I actually do this? And so having the whole wait to respond be explained to me, and understanding how my sacral and how my gut really does speak to me, and how much better my body can help me to make decisions, because your mind is great at so many things, but decision making is not one of them.
Yes.
It's like a robot that just is overwhelmed and completely melts down. Our bodies can take in so much more wisdom and so many more variables than our minds can handle. That's where our truth lies and our inner wisdom lies. And so just learning my type, strategy, and authority, right, was a game changer. People started asking me what are you doing? What, they were, and I had no idea that I was going to go and start using human design in my business. But then colleagues and other business friends were like, tell me more about this thing. Cause this seems to really be working for you. And when I first started getting into the experiment, I was pregnant, with my second child. And he was born in March of 2018 as I was like really going down the human design rabbit hole for the first time. And it turns out he's a reflector. So I think that like it was just meant to be, you know, it really was the right time, the right place. And now I have like this awareness that I didn't have to understand him and his brother, who's an emotional generator. And yeah, and here I am, like, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years
This is
later,
amazing.
you know, I'm a certified BG5 human design for business consultant, and I'm studying to be a profit potential coach, which is like using your human design and figuring out how you're here to uniquely profit. And it's just so fun. And I just love bringing it to my work and seeing how we're all so unique and how there just cannot be a blueprint for how to do business or how to do marketing or how to do anything because we're so different.
It's amazing. It's amazing, actually, because you're so passionate about this whole thing about being unique. I think this is what human design gives you when you discover it. My first thing was like, this is it. This is a permission to be me. I heard so many human design people, let's say, using that phrase. And I was like, I said that, but no, this is just how it feels. But when you take that and you bring it into, you know, areas of your life, for example, us as running our own businesses and finding the way not to overthink and actually having this permission of just being you. And I loved what you mentioned before, just by knowing even the surface level, as in, you know, your type, your authority and your profile, already it gives so much knowledge how
it's like life-changing.
It's absolutely. But there's something else, and this is what I heard you talking about, and I think that this is also very important in business. It's like the next level of stuff, you know. So start with your type, start with your profile. It will give you so many ideas, and both of us can help you. But the next level is really how you interact with, you know, your relationships. And I'm talking about the definitions. Maybe you are a better person just to introduce us what these definitions are.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of layers, but definition can start to give us some ideas. I think the podcast episode that you were listening to was just after our first lockdown in France in 2020. It was like May of 2020. And we'd had our kids home, like so many people out there, right? For like 12 weeks straight. And my husband and I were trying to work. He's, now he's a professor of physics here in New Brunswick, but he was a research scientist in France, and he was trying to do work, and I was trying to like still sort of run my business. And we had like a 2-year-old and a like 4-year-old home all the time. So it was a bit impossible, but we did the best we could. And then the day they went back to school and daycare in like May happened, and the house was empty for like the first time in 3 months. And I was sitting there at my desk, like working, and I looked up and I had gotten so much done that day and I felt so good. And I was like, what happened today? Oh yeah. Like I was home alone, working by myself all day, because I'm a single definition. So if you look at your human design chart, if you pull it on My Body Graph or Jovian Archive, in the like little info on the side, it'll tell you your definition. And single definition means that all of the energy centers in your chart are connected. It's like an electric circuit, which means that you're pretty self-contained and you don't need necessarily other people to kind of feel complete and to assimilate, to learn, to work, to kind of do your best work. Do your problem solving, like things are going to work better for you when you're alone. And I really am the type of person that loves being home alone in my house when nobody else is here. Like that's my most productive time. My husband and I had been trying to work during the pandemic lockdown. Like we had a babysitter there towards the end before school opened up, but like we were both working in our bedroom at the time because we had a small apartment in Bordeaux, France. Like literally our chairs were like almost back to back, and we're both single definition. Okay. I'm an MG, he's a G. And like, we were just, it wasn't working for either of us. Cause like, I just can't focus the way I want to focus when there's other people in my space and in my aura. Like I do not do co-working well.
Wow, this is amazing because you're a 1-3 and I'm a 1-3 as well. Even though I am a small split definition, I can relate to that.
Yes.
but I can relate to that. If I'm working and my husband comes here and sits here, for example, there's a couch just here, so he could be in my aura. That's it. That's when I stop being as productive as when I'm completely on my own to do something. I think that's line one.
Does he bridge up any of your splits?
He probably
have you looked at your
yeah, I do have it. I don't remember off the top of my head.
So
I know
the thing about a split definition, a small split, so where you need one gate or two gates or something, like it's just one gate to bridge, but there might be 2 or 3 places where that happens depending on the chart. Is that when you have the person that bridges up your split, then your energy flows well again. But if your husband doesn't bridge up your split, he might just be there kind of like distracting you and your energy.
That's it.
And
that's what I think
energy
it is.
Type is he?
He is a projector.
He's a projector too. Okay, so he's not bringing like too much sacral energy.
No, he has a root defined, and I feel it.
So when he's around, you're suddenly like, oh, I need to hurry. I need to
yeah,
do
there's
more.
a lot
like,
of,
I'm behind.
There's like, if I'm doing something in a very calm way, say I have a puppy and it's winter, so I have to put everything on the puppy, the coat. And then my husband will come in and just stand beside me while I'm doing
that
this.
doesn't feel
That's
good.
it. Everything starts falling apart. Once even the key holder fell, and I laughed because I said, that's your root. It's like, do it now.
That defined root, right? Like it puts that pressure on you, and it's not nothing he's doing consciously or that you're doing consciously. It's just there. Absolutely. So there are more intricacies here, but like generally single definition people in BG5, we would say we have independent assimilation. So that means like we take in, we learn, we problem solve, we focus best independently. So co-working sessions don't really work well for me. I don't get very much done. Sometimes it still can feel good, like maybe to go have a change of scenery or whatever, go to a coffee shop, but I know I'm not going to get my best work done there. And for split definitions, like for simple splits or even for wide splits, if you got a split definition, it is going to feel probably the best for you to be working in collaboration. So you have collaborative assimilation. So that means that you are here to work with other people. And it might take you slightly longer to process information or learn things or problem solve than it takes somebody who has independent assimilation. But you have like a wider perspective. You look at things from like a bigger picture, more angles than me, because I'm like fast and I'm done and I've moved on. But like you're talking it out with somebody, you're thinking about it in different ways, and you have like a kind of bigger view of it than I do. And working with other people works really well for you. And so I've a lot of split definitions, say, oh, well, I love co-working. I love being at a cafe, or I love, being on Zoom with people, even if we're not talking, because like it helps me to focus and to get work done. And so thinking about that, if you are split, like how can you bring that in, even if we're still in pandemic, like 4.0 or whatever we are now, like how can you bring that in a way that feels really good? I saw a suggestion from a business coach who's not even a human design person, but he was saying, oh, if you are having trouble coming up with ideas for like marketing content, get on a Zoom with somebody and just start brainstorming and like bouncing ideas off each other, and then like turn the sound off and start writing. And I was like, that doesn't sound like fun for me, but like, I bet it does for somebody who has a split, right? So like, think about how can you leverage that and make it work for you in your business, and know that like having that collaboration is really important to you. And then there are people with, sorry, did you have?
Yes, I wanted to just stick something in because, I have a small split, and I have to say there's something you said, figure out what feels good for you. Because for example, we're discussing this, but I have a small split. For me, coming up with working on my own, and maybe it's line one, because line one likes solitude and it's recharges in solitude as well. So that could be that influence. I love working in the coffee shops when I'm on my own and writing, because I don't know what they activate, but I'm sort of like there.
Well, you also get sacral energy in that passive way too, right?
Of course, yeah. So this is kind of, it's true that you complete. I also took part and I conducted my own co-working sessions on Zoom, where, as you said, we didn't talk, but we actually did a lot. So what I think that you should do is, if you don't know if you have a split, try different things, and then always check with how you feel, because you might try one thing and it doesn't feel well, and then you say, the girl said that I should do this, but it doesn't feel well. You have to find
No,
your thing.
I'm here giving you some outer authority, but your inner authority is always the answer, right? It's just like some things to respond to or invitations to like try or whatever that it is. I was doing a training last year on Zoom we were supposed to be in person. It was like a week long, like all day on Zoom. And the facilitator kept breaking us out into like breakout rooms to like talk about the things and like do activities. And some of that's okay for me, but like there was a point by the middle of the week where I was like, I need to opt out of the breakout room. Like I'll be back in 45 minutes or whenever we're done this thing, but I need to go like work on this thing by myself. And it's amazing how people were like, oh, actually me too. Or like, no, I really want to do the breakout room. It's like suddenly people have permission to be like, actually this format, I need to make it work for me. And this isn't working for me.
Interesting.
So yeah, thinking about the breadth of how people learn. And then there's triple split. So these are people who have 3 islands of energy in their design that all don't connect to each other. And so they almost have like 3 parts of themselves at play. And because no one person is probably going to bridge up those 3 parts, if you have triple split, really need a variety of environments. So a variety of places to actually go and work with different auras around you, a variety of client meetings or other group meetings, or just that ability to move around and not feel like boxed in or contained, or like you're stuck with the same people all day, every day, 24/7. And I know that I have a triple split client who I remember during lockdown, her being like, I'm so sick of my family. Cause like, she's normally gone to the salon, go to the coffee shop and work, go to Pilates, see a friend for this, like go out for drinks. And like, suddenly it's all gone. Right. And so figuring out how to use your energy again in a way that supports you. If you're a business owner with triple split, like how can your environments change during the week? How can the people you're working with change? Maybe you are seeing a bunch of different clients during the week and that's helping you to do that. And so that could feel really good for somebody with triple split.
Is there a quadruple split? And are they similar in that way? Is there much difference?
So quadruple split people tend to be almost completely defined. I'm not sure if it's even possible to have a quadruple split. I guess it technically would be because you could have 8 centers and then 1 open. So a lot of the times quadruple split are almost like fully defined. And so they're quite fixed people, right? They move at their pace in their way. So if whatever it is that makes you feel good at your speed, yes, maybe some days it's like you want to be like a triple split and moving around. And maybe sometimes it's like, okay, I just need to like be alone for a bit, or I need to go at my own speed. So thinking about how does it feel to just be you and not conform to other people? Because that's the thing about someone with that much definition, is that other people are here to adapt to you. It's not the other way around. Right. So like, how can you just be you in a way that feels good, in whatever environment feels good, and like let other people deal with that?
That is very interesting because, at the end of the day, and guys, you can check out your definition and see. So it's the working environment, but it's also relationships. You mentioned something about, processing information, and I can really relate to that. So my daughter is a single split, and I know that she processes much faster, and she learns
a single definition. Yeah.
Single definition. Sorry. Yeah. She's a single definition. And as an example, we got a puppy and we started training a puppy. We're going together to the same trainer. And, she's sort of like, yeah, mom, this is what you do. I've
done it.
And, and I am still, I feel like, the puppy is getting smarter and I'm getting not so smart by the day.
Yeah. Whereas for you, probably like asking questions for the trainer and listening and then talking about it. And then that's going to make you like get it better and feel like you assimilate the information better and you have mastery. Whereas it is correct for her to just be like, oh, well, I already got it. So now I'm moving on. And it is true that having that awareness allows us to accept other people. Like I know when I look back on corporate days, when I used to work in a in an office in a communications team where there was like 3 of us in a little cubicle pod. And not only am I single definition, but I'm also a manifesting generator. And I don't know the designs of the other people I worked with, but I was constantly feeling like, I'm much faster at this than everybody here. Like, how come I can't just leave? Like, how come I'm not getting paid more? You know, like I'm done. Like I'm done. It's halfway through the day and I've done all my work. So understanding that like not everyone moves at your speed and it's okay. Like there's no better or worse. It's like it's the tortoise and the hare thing. Like, you know, like we each have our own strengths, and our own way of doing it. And understanding that in relationship can really be helpful. I know I noticed with my husband, like I said, he's also single. And if we're trying to solve a problem, like this happened when we moved back to Canada last year. One of the stages in our move was like, we were at my parents' house for a couple of weeks and we like bought a car and all that. And we're like packing it to move to New Brunswick because they're in Ontario, and he was going to drive the car and I flew with the boys. And we had to fit like a bunch of stuff in the car. So like it was Tetris, and he was like in the garage trying to figure out how to fit everything in. And I was in there like making suggestions, and he was losing his mind. He was like, you need to leave. Like, I can't do this with you here helping. And I was like, oh, of course he can't. Like he's in his own independent assimilation process here, single definition. Like my single definition is not helping here. Like he doesn't want to talk about it. He wants to find the fastest, best way for him to do it. So like, I need to leave them alone. And so now we know this about each other. So if I see that happening, I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to let you be in your process. If you need help, you're going to ask, right? Like I'm going to go somewhere else because my aura is not helping you right now. And so if you're a single definition in a partnership with a split definition, then that could be a point where it's like the split always wants to talk about things and always wants to make sure we're all on the same page and like has questions and all the thing. And it's slow for you, but like, that's part of their thing, and know that they come to a deeper understanding. So like, how can you both have like a balance or harmony there, right?
This is so true. This is so true. Actually, the acceptance, self-acceptance, yes, but it's acceptance of those around you. It's like the story I told you about, you know, the root center, my husband just standing in the corridor, exactly. And everything went, I felt so much pressure to move faster. And, you know, and I was in the coolest, you know, I was in Zen the moment before this happened. And this is it, like, you don't get upset because you just understand these are the things at play, and what you described as well. So it's really interesting, and it becomes easier and happier to live and navigate, you know, all these energies that we feel. What about if somebody has a small split and somebody has a large split? Does this affect their relationships? You know, what's the difference there?
Well, so it doesn't whether you have a wide split or a narrow split doesn't technically change how you assimilate information. So you're still a collaborative assimilation. You like to work together with other people in order to feel whole, to problem solve, to learn, right? And people with single splits, you know, there's pressure on the other side of those gates where your split is. And when we're looking at the shadows in someone's design, if I'm looking at a split definition design, like that gate that has the most pressure, and there's a whole list of figuring out if you've got 4 or 5, which one's the most, that's your biggest shadow. So you might always be trying to overcompensate or bridge up that gate, right? And the themes of the gate on the other side of your bridge is always something that is going to play out for you in the same way that we have shadows in our undefined centers, right? And so with a simple split, the theme there for you is often going to be like, you think you lack the thing. Okay. So like, let's say we were talking about this, the nurturing channel before we got going, right? The 50, 27. So if you have the 27, you don't have the 50, and you don't have this like splenic stop on your nurturing.
Yeah, that's me.
Right? Mm-hmm. You can over nurture and over care to the point of a detriment to your health. Possibly, right?
That's
and if
that happened with my puppy. You just described it. It was detrimental.
So
to my
I don't
health.
know where that split is in your design in terms of.
It's exactly what you described.
Okay,
it's exactly. Oh yeah, I don't know about that.
But anyway, I haven't seen your chart. But if say that was the most pressure for you in terms of you bridging your split, then this is a theme that's going to continue to come up, and a shadow that you're going to be continuing to work with, just like we do in our open centers. Like I have a wide open heart, and that whole worthiness theme is like layer after layer after layer of deconditioning. So that's going to be happening in the bridging gate of your split. And you're going to blame yourself for not being able to put boundaries on your caring. You're going to say, well, it's my fault. I lack something for not being able to know when enough is enough for the caring and to be able to protect my own health and fill my own cup. If somebody had a wide split and the pressure was in, usually with a wide split, it's more than one gate. So we can't just point one theme. It might be a whole stream or something, but they're going to blame either other people, if it's a simple wide, or the world, if it's a very wide, for the lack. So they'll either say, well, it's your fault that I'm not able to put, like, I'm not able to connect this thing, or I'm not able to understand the theme of whatever the stream is, or it's the world's fault that like people here don't care or don't nurture each other or don't take, don't like look out for each other. And so when those themes are coming up in relationship, that's where we can look and say, okay, well, the simple split in the relationship might be blaming themselves for whatever they think they lack. And the wide split might be blaming them or others, or the world for what they are lacking. And so how do those shadows show up, and how can we bring awareness to them? Just like we do with our undefined centers. It's like, I know that I have the shadow of wanting to prove myself. So like, how does that show up in my relationship so that I am not activating from that place? Because it's never correct. It's not according to my decision-making strategy to prove, right? Or to like try and compete with my husband, or to try and like overcompensate with the children so that he'll love me, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And so thinking about what those themes are and can be super helpful, I think.
I can totally relate. I'm an open heart as well, so I can totally relate. But it does give you a lot of wisdom to be aware of this. And yes, it's playing, it's never ending. It's not that you're going to reach a destination, but that's okay. The process is also enjoyable. You can see it as enjoyable too.
Oh, 100%. And the undefined centers, or the bridging gates, if in the case of the splits, are where our wisdom is, right? Yeah. Like that, when I start to see and be aware and move through it and unpick another layer, then I have wisdom for myself and for other people. And, we were talking a little bit about profit potential in a minute. That's actually where your profit potential is. Like your undefined centers have your profit potential in them, because they have the potential to have so much wisdom, for you to share. Like, it's so, I can teach from a place of, especially as a 1-3, right? Knowledge and experience around my worthiness and the layers that I have personally shifted, and the awareness I personally have, in a way that somebody with a defined heart who's never struggled with their self-worth is never going to be able to teach and share from, right? So it's like, by learning the wisdom, we turn what could be a weakness into our strengths.
Yes. And as 1-3 as well, it's like we 3 specifically, we always take what is painful, or what we don't, what didn't seem to work. And we always find some sort of conclusions. I find myself, I don't ever get hookups on something or blame. Well, I do blame myself. You're so right. I'm a small split. My husband is a large split. Yeah. My husband it's never his fault. It's the world's fault. It's the government's fault. It's somebody looks at them, it's their fault, but it's never really his fault. And I'd be like, oh, what's wrong with me? Exactly. I had a quick question when you were talking about specifically that. So for someone with a triple split, would they have both of these sort of blaming? Because, I do see this with people. I know a few people with the triple splits, and it's very interesting to see, because a lot of them do blame it. There's a lot of this blaming going on, but is there something that depends on?
No, with the triple split, because there's so many connections that can possibly be happening to bridge those energy islands, their biggest shadows are going to be in their undefined centers. And then we look at, like, there's a hierarchy, right? So if they have an undefined heart, that's usually the number 1 shadow. Then the emotional center, that's our number 2 shadow. And there's a whole I think the splenic center is next. So you go through and would look at what's undefined in a triple split. And those would be the shadows that you'd be like looking at. The bridging gates don't work the same in a triple split, because there are so many.
Well, thank you for clarifying. This is no problem. I think it's very important. I also know that, obviously you brought so much really great knowledge. I love 1-3s, guys, sometimes we can come deep. Across as heavy and deep, but actually we're very lovable because we really know our shit. So you can trust whatever we're saying is because we live through it and we experience it. We never really share something that's.
And I don't know about you, but I find that like that one is always like I think we tend to discredit ourselves because we want such a solid foundation that before we're able to speak with authority on something, we know like 100 times more than we're willing to speak about, because it's like when I was first learning and I was just getting small amounts of information, it's like I was skeptical, like I wasn't even able to start sharing that yet because my foundation wasn't solid. Whereas some people, and I admire them because I don't have that, they're like, oh, well, I learned a bit and now I'm going to go share it. And I just can't, it's so hard sometimes to move out of the one of being like, okay, I know enough. Now it's time to get into the like experiment. Right. And so, yeah, that is one of the things about 1-3 is I think is that like, we feel we really need to have a foundation before we can like speak with authority.
I love it. I love it. I think I'm going to have a segment in this podcast, like what is your profile and what do you love and what's happening there? Because it's just so fascinating. What you described to a T describes me. I was obsessed with human design. I was so deep researching. I was learning so much. I was bringing it into my business. Then I decided, you know what, I'm going to come out of my closet and say, hey guys, I'm a woo-woo person now, you know, because I'm very left-brained. And, you know, when you said,
same.
you know, science, I am kind of like really practical. But that's why I wanted to bring it, because I find that a lot of people who do gene keys and, you know, to an extent human design, they're not as practical and hands-on. And this is how you can, you know, and I wanted this practical, simple, beginner friendly version, you know, for this. But it took me probably 2.5 months from the day when I announced it and talking to another 1-3 and asking, when do you share? You know, it took me so long before even, you know, to step into this and start sharing that knowledge that I've accumulated. But you know, what's interesting, I've realized as a 1-3, well, line 1, I've realized that I do have so much more knowledge, the core knowledge, not like memory, not like, you know, I just know everything about this. It's not about everything. It's about what interests me in this full scope. And then I get so deep into it until I understand it so well, just on a cellular level. And then I can talk with conviction about it because through my own perspective. And I think that this is exactly what, you know, line 1 is. And it's very empowering. And the other day, it was literally, guys, the other day I realized that I'm much, much smarter like this than most people that I know. I'm much faster finding the right information. I'm much better using Google. People say to me, you know, people ask questions, and I'm like, do you know?
My husband's often like, can you Google this for me? Because I Googled it, I couldn't find the answer. And like 2 minutes later, I'm like, this is the answer.
That's my life. It's exactly the same. My husband's like, I can't find anything, you know, and I'm like, it's there on the first, like it's literally
on the first page.
It's about the search criteria. It's about how you do it. But and you know what, when this is explaining how human design can empower you, you know, because I never realized how deep I go, how fast I am, how good I am. Like I'm a super fast computer. Now I am not some sort of like, you know, 10 years old computer struggling. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's good because that gives me the advantage. So next time, you know, this is also a selling point. This is something that, you know, I can research for you before, you know, somebody asks me a question. I'm like, can they not Google themselves? This is just simple question. I don't know why, you know, I feel like, why are they paying me for this basic stuff? They can Google. But by realizing how fast you are, how good you're getting information, and people then the feedback, and I'm sure you get the same feedback. People are saying, oh my God, this is a life-saving information. You thinking,
well, and it's like, I don't think we realize sometimes how much we've curated. Like there is so much information out there, like books and internet and podcasts and stuff. And it's like, I take in so much of it that I, in my mind, have curated so much. And then when someone says the right question or asks me the right thing, I'm like, oh, well, I know the thing you're looking for. I know the episode to send you to, or the person you need, or the like book you should read or whatever, because I'm like, oh yeah, I have that back there somewhere in my filing system.
It's brilliant. Yes. It's just like, you know, the old school, these kind of cards.
Yeah, exactly.
You just have them in your head. And then with line 3 as well, this is a very interesting one. I've done everything in my life. I think this is where maybe people see us more through, would you agree people see us more as this unconscious line?
So generally we see ourselves as the conscious, so we see our line 1 more easily, and other people will see our third line much more easily than we do, because it's unconscious. So it can be harder. Although once we start to learn about it, I think you see it more, because that's the whole awareness, right? You're like, oh yeah, I have done that. I have kind of tried a lot of things. Like I use myself as a crash test dummy. I mean, do experiments on myself in my life all the time. And you start to realize how much you really experimented and how much you are the pioneer, which is the word we use for the third line in BG5, because you are here to walk the new path, because you tried all the other paths and you're like, this didn't work and I'm going this way.
I'm having such a splenic reaction. My whole body is tingling right now, because I came up with the marketing archetypes based on lines, and I called, because I don't like the original language, I called line 3 the pathfinder, pathfinder.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some people don't like to see themselves as adventurous. I actually don't see myself as adventurous, only when I realize that I actually am, but just, I'm not someone who goes hiking with, Indiana Jones. That's not me, but finding the path, discovering the pioneers, and it's again, what some other people say, well, I'm just constantly failing, and this is all, this is so hard. A lot of people say this is so hard, and it's just all this. My daughter's, all my family is 3-5. I don't have a single person with a different profile. So I see their 5 line very, very clearly. Yeah. But my daughter, for example, she's only 22. She's only living through the first, part of her life. So she has a lot of failures, especially relationships with other people, finding herself. And she sometimes says, why is it so hard? She blames herself, but it's not. It's just, it's finding this awareness that it's all such a great experience for you. Now you know what's not working. You never need to do this again, because you really know.
Like the third line has the resilience to do it. Like that's the superpower of the pioneer, right? It's like we were given the resilience we need to be the pathfinder, right? To try all the things and have it not work and still get up and keep going. And so I think like that is a superpower. It is. I know a lot of times people feel like being a third line, especially if they're conscious third line, that it's like disempowering, because they're like, but I have to trial and error and I have to fail like before I succeed. And our society gives us so much conditioning around like overnight success and like, what does it mean to like be a 30 under 30 or whatever, you know what I mean? Like to get it right the first time. And it's like, but like that's not real life. First of all, those are like narratives. And second of all, like, I don't think it's really that much fun when you think about it. Like when I think about all my third line, like I said, in a past life, I was a forecaster. Like I have an undergraduate in atmospheric science. I did forecast the weather for a year. It was so fun. I went tornado chasing in the US Midwest for like 4 weeks. It was awesome. But like, did that be my career? Did that where I ended up? No, like who cares?
I truly agree with you. There's so much conditioning. For me, it showed in as a marketing consultant, and being into like online visibility, Facebook, what strategies, how do you get clients? And I have followed a lot of coaches, and I'm constantly trying these things on. And I felt so insecure for a long time, because, you try things on. It's like if you go to the shop and you try things on, they're not your size. They're not suiting your body shape, right? And you're trying this on, you look shit. But is it like, why is it happening? It's not your size, and it doesn't suit your body shape, right? It's the wrong piece of clothing. And that's what happens, I think with line 3, we're constantly trying things on, and okay, this is not me, this is not me, this is not me. And I had a huge insecurity for a long time, because, every time I tried something, it was public. I even created programs, teaching this, what I knew, and I believed in this. But in the long run, it didn't make me feel good. And so I just felt like, it's like something you buy. Clothes is such a great, for me, analogy here, because you can buy something, it might feel okay for a while, but after a few times you wear it, you kind of say, you know what, I don't know about this, there's something here pulling all the time.
Yeah. Or like you could be great in the moment, but then your life changes, and 6 months later you have a small baby and you're like, I'm not going to wear any of this anymore. So like, it's also okay to be like, this was a good path for this time in my life, and now it's changed. And like, it's so true. Especially as a manifesting generator, like the amount of times I've pivoted in my business and my life, And I will continue to do so. And if I viewed it as like, well, I have to figure out my thing and get there, or I'm never going to be successful or satisfied, then I would be constantly frustrated. Yes. Whereas now I'm able to, as human design gives us this permission slip to be like, well, I'm here to like alchemize all the things and try them and be there, and then pivot when it's more satisfying to be over here. And it just gets to be fun that way.
It's exactly. I love that you said that. I have so many manifesting generators I work with, and some of them lovely people, they do get stuck with the shoulds and, focusing on one thing. And maybe I even said to them to focus on one thing before I knew about human design, before I even knew who they were.
It seems like it's one of those things that seems like it would be a good thing, right? It's like, well, if you just pick a niche and you just do a thing and you just keep doing it consistently, eventually you'll be successful. And that might work for some people. And it's going to feel like trapping the manifesting generator. Every manifesting generator that I have been blessed to work with has gone through so many evolutions of their business. And every time they go through another one, I'm like, look at them go, they're pivoting again.
And it's true when they actually allow themselves, just kind of like, just break the chains. It's absolutely true. I have one manifesting generator right now. I think she has 3 programs simultaneously that are going, and she always fills them. Always fills them. They're completely different. So amazing. Same profile on Facebook, same, audience, but it works for her. For someone else, it wouldn't work. If you're just a generator, it wouldn't work. Different pace, different energetics. For a projector, it doesn't work, and
it's so true. So true. And it's just so fun to like let yourself do it. It's like sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like last year I had this like to go and train as a breathwork facilitator, and that on the surface has nothing to do with my work, except that it's a tool that was so incredibly helpful for me during the pandemic that like regulates me and allows me to get it on my mind so much that I was like, I really want to have this tool for my clients and I really want to facilitate breathwork. And I got certified, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to offer breathwork sessions. So now you can do human design sessions. We can do breathwork sessions. I do subconscious transformation facilitation. And then I have programs where they all come together. And it's like, it's so cool to just be like, this is me and my MG doing what only I can do, because there's nobody else with their same mix of skills and experiences, and allowing myself to do that. And I love having like the different things in my schedule because it keeps me from being bored, and like next month, it might be something else. So.
This is very interesting that you mentioned about, things that come into our lives. I was talking to another expert, a 1-3 projector, and he said to me something about, it was about the skills. He was saying, all these things that I've learned, and they're completely different. They were at completely different stages, but somehow that's what creates this unique perspective and unique thing that I do as a 1-3, which is uniqueness is line 1. It's a big thing about your unique thing. I find exactly the same thing. You do something that is completely not related. For me, dog training, how much psychology I see. Amazing. Even though dogs are thinking differently, but when you start thinking about something else, thinking differently, then you start applying, to these layers of humans thinking differently, add human design like as a compass, and here you go. There's such a big level of understanding and awareness, like a different dimension.
So have you pulled your dog's chart yet?
Yes, I did. I searched high and low, and I got this little PDF wrote a mammal design. I did the chart, and I did connection chart with me and my husband.
Amazing. I love it. And that's such a line 1 thing to do. I'm so happy that you said yes.
Oh God, I did. And what I found out, and he was only 2 weeks with us, what I found out that we have the dog that will constantly rule our lives. This is the dog who calls the shots. He has this channel. I think it's 1555. It's something about that channel that he basically
the 15-5. I think all dogs have 15-5, don't they? The rhythm.
I'm not sure. Yeah. No, they were saying, no, what they said that not necessarily, because some dogs, it depends. I think that my boss, for example, I had a dog before, and he knew internally what time is it to feed him. So he would stand there and literally like, look at you, it's 4:00. And sometimes he'd start at 2:00, and I'd be like, Harry, it's not 2:00, it's 14. It's not, This one, it will wait until I fit him. He doesn't have this like
cool.
necessarily. Okay. So he's slightly different, but very aloof. He's very independent. He's very afraid of things. And now we're having a lot of problems with him getting very anxious and barking, you know, especially like crying in the street. It's a lot of things. And I keep thinking that he actually has this in his design. First, I tried, you know, to use some sort of like, not punishment is a bad word, but there's some techniques that you can do, you know, and I see that it's getting worse because all he needs love. He needs completely different approach. If I didn't know that it's in his design, it would have been very difficult, but it was very funny to read the connection and see the bottom line was me and my husband, our lives, he's taken over. My mom, who he currently is, you know, he goes like on vacations to my mom because we need a break. We're both projectors. We have no energy. And so we need a break from him. And my mom is a generator. She can handle him. There was a partnership. The theme was the partnership. She's the one who can handle. She's 81 years old.
Amazing.
And she is, you know, even though I'm sure he's running amok there as well, but she can handle it. And so, yes, mammal design. So cool.
I don't know anything about the charts, but mammal charts, but I have a friend who has a bunch of cats, and she was like, I pulled my cat's charts. And I was like, that's amazing.
I sometimes feel like, you know, line one, this is a funny thing because sometimes you just find out something you just didn't need to see, but you can't unsee this.
But then you're like, but I need to know more.
You kind of do, yes, because, you know, like I'm a kind of person, we took a puppy, the puppy became too much for us. I will never give him up. Maybe I will blame myself to the end of my days for having him because I'm a small split, as we discussed, and I already do. But I know also that he will grow up, he will slow down, and hopefully we will work through the issues. So I have that kind of hope as well. But I'd never give him up. So sometimes, you know, knowing that he's running the show here, maybe I didn't need that information. And they do sometimes say, you know what, you know, this obsessive research. Interesting about the research in line ones. My husband is 3'5", and he says to me, 10 minutes is enough. You're obsessed with this. You're obsessed. Stop talking about it.
For sure happen. Yeah. It's fun. You're right. Cause I feel like there's this fine line between like doing it because it's like interesting and you're like, someone will say something and I'm like, I'm instantly Googling it, you know, cause I'm curious. And my husband's like, do you have to Google everything? And I'm like, no, but I want to know more about this thing, this obscure thing that they just said now. And sometimes that can be really fun because it's like, it was an aha for me or whatever. And I want to know. But you're right. Like there's a line where we get really too far into research and we, like I said, we don't come back to experimenting with it or using it for any reason. And so it's like when we're just stuck down there because we feel like we don't know enough. Like there's
I feel it's like a hope that you will find more, especially if it's something really traumatic, like with me and the puppy. It was probably the most traumatic thing of the last 20 years for me. And I was just so deep. And every time I find the
answer at that point.
Yes. When he is difficult, I know that I will be researching. I know I'm going to be doing, but it's funny what you mentioned about Google, because, you know, I watch movies a lot. I don't really like TV, and, you know, my winding down every night I watch a movie. And so I don't remember last time I watched the movie without picking up my phone and Googling.
100% to Google the actor, or like
the actor, what he said, how old he was when he did this movie or something else, or, you know, so much trivia. And I remember I lived in Ireland for 21 years. And in 2014, me and my husband came here for, you know, like a quick visit. And we didn't have, Estonia is very advanced in terms of, you know, internet was much faster even before I left in the 90s. And Ireland is very backwards when it comes to these things, especially down the country. It's like really, really backwards in terms of technology and Googling things. It's just not really in the culture. And I came here, and my sister and her husband, we were having a dinner, a question came up, and both of them, they're not one threes, but both of them just did this and found the answer. And for me, it was like, what? Yes. And that was the second time happened after I bought my first computer, logged into the internet, and I said, oh my God, the
world is open. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been online visibility and stuff ever since, you know, and that's 30 years ago almost. So it's insane how, you know, when you know this about what helped me say in the last 2 years that I'm really deep in the research about human design, it's how you can really leverage knowing this about yourself, because it's not enough to just stop on Googling. It's about, what you said about sharing, finding that sweet spot when you say, you know what, I'm solid with this. I'm going to start sharing this. I can still build up my knowledge. I don't need to be full-blown expert to just start, and it was sometimes it's very difficult because of the conditioning with human design. For me, it was very difficult just based on being like, what if they call me out? What if they say, Juliette, you don't have a certification? And I will be honest with you, I'm not a person who likes go to get certified. So I don't care about this. And yet the insecurity of that line one would be like, somebody will call you up and say, stop talking about this. Stop writing an entrepreneur about this.
Well, especially you just said you also have an open heart. So it's like this shadow of like wanting to prove that you know what you're talking about. Right? Like that. And, being called out or like having somebody disapprove of you, right? Like that. Yeah.
But it's only in the beginning, it's only in the beginning when you start showing up. And I always said that before I even knew about human design, because I had exactly the same theme when I started talking about marketing. I expected specific person, in fact, who never did say anything bad, but I expected them to call me up and say, who are you to talk about websites? You don't have the degree in you taught yourself everything. And at that stage, I didn't know what teaching yourself everything for line one means. And that's, it's a certification and it's a degree in itself.
For sure.
Yeah. And yet when you start showing up, when you start just, go for it. If you have the calling, share, start embodying this image that you want to be, where you want to be, then you don't really think about, then you can cope with the, the feeling of,
and I think especially for the 1-3 profile, because we're the only profile that's like really focused on ourselves, right? We have no transpersonal lines. So the best way and the easiest way that I found to show up is just to be like, I'm showing up with what I'm learning. I'm showing up with what I'm learning, what my experience is, what my perspective is. I'm not claiming to be the expert in terms of you. Like I'm here with my knowledge on me and my experience and what I know. Take it or leave it.
That's exactly how I feel. I love it. How I'm literally like, again, tingles. My spleen is very happy with this. It's very positive responses. It's like, yes, this is exactly how I feel. And that gives you a lot of empowerment. It really does. When you kind of step into this and you take ownership of this, it's your perspective and take it or leave it. Jackie, thank you so much for being my guest today. I could talk to you for hours, but we have to eventually.
Well, two 1-3s with the depth of human design, complexity. We probably could talk for hours.
It could be like a 3-day full-on 24/7 event. But before I let you go, I know that you have a little free, let's call it a gift for our listeners.
Yeah, sure.
So what is it?
So if you go to jackiejohnstone.ca/more, there are all my links. And the second link is a free introduction to your human design. So if you're like, what the heck is human design? You can go in there, put your email in, it'll walk you through how to pull your chart, how to read your chart, what's your type, some information about it, what's your strategy, what's your authority, so that you can get into your human design experiment, because that's what my third line wants for you. I want to give you a little bit of information and then like let you go and experiment with it. One of my favorite things about human design is that like, it's not a religion. This isn't an oracle telling you how to live your life. It's like, here's some awareness tools and some archetypes, and like, go experiment. It is an experiment. What works for you? What feels good for you? So like, go do it.
Definitely. Guys, go check it out. If you have no idea about human design, you need that kind of introduction. It could be too overwhelming. A lot of people report that it's very overwhelming for them when they just, they go to even mybodygraph.com and
well,
they start
it's just a lot. There's a lot of lines, and colors and numbers and planets. And it's like, you don't have to understand all of that. So,
and some people, they're just like, what are all those numbers? For me, I don't like numbers. So for me, the brain was like, no, numbers, no way. And that was another thing with the insecurity actually sharing about human design, because my brain said to me, Juliette, you will never remember. Then, and in this show, in this episode specifically, I couldn't remember the channels and everything. How are you going to use that if you don't remember? It's okay. I have printed guides.
Exactly. That's why we have books.
Exactly. Jackie, thank you again. And guys, I will see you in another episode of Visibility by Design.